Another day, another Xbox 2 podcast. Every week rolls by. What is going on, everybody out there? And I already can tell I'm botting. That's why I hate when Jez doesn't show up for this. Hold on one second. Jesus. All right. I always hate when this happens. Anyways, hopefully that fixes it. And let's see if it does. Because usually Jez would tell me if everything worked properly, and it sounds like it is. But once again, for the second week in a row, I don't know where Jez is. So we're going to do the show, and hopefully he pops in. I haven't heard from Jez in a while. You know what's funny about this is that he's the one who changed the time to 3 p.m. because we usually do the show at 4, right? He's the one who originally changed the time, and ever since then, he just, I don't know if he forgets or whatever, but yeah, so it's just going to be me. I don't pay him. Well, I don't pay anybody. I mean, it's, it'll make much money doing this, so don't really have any money to spare. We talked about that, but, he's, he's writing for Windows Central. I'm sure he makes whatever he does. But anyways, maybe he'll pop in here soon enough. But until then, it's just me. So hopefully everybody is just happy with good old Rand for a little bit. And we have some interesting stuff to talk about. Some of these things I've talked about before in previous videos, but some of the stuff I haven't talked about yet. And I've gotten actually a bunch of requests to talk about the IGN and Xbox One whole thing. So we're going to delve into that, the whole forcing people to download 4K assets. Definitely going to talk about that as well. Yeah, so let's see. 2 dislikes already. I'm sure I got a couple of my haters out there. Why don't everybody just hit that like button to flush out them haters, to make them upset? I love that. You don't even start a podcast, and sure enough, it's already got some haters. So, yep. It is what it is, though. The super chat is open. If you want me to talk about anything on your mind, you can hit up that, and I will talk about it. And, of course, the link for any tips or donations, if you want, is always in the link in the description if you want. But anyways, what have I been playing with? What have I been playing this week? You know what? I as you guys know, I got a PlayStation 4. I have beaten Uncharted 2. So I actually quite like Uncharted 2, to be honest with you. I thought it was way better than Uncharted 1. Way better. So much better that I honestly, when I talk about how like Rise and Rise 2, like I wish like Rise 2 Rise would have gotten a sequel, because what I saw from Uncharted and Uncharted 2 made me think wow, they really stepped it up. And which was pretty awesome. So yeah, so Uncharted 2, I'll have a review out when I finish Uncharted 3. I'm like 6 chapters into Uncharted 3, so I'll be able to do that at some point. And now I can't connect to the chat for whatever reason. What is going on with YouTube? I can't tell if anybody can hear me. It's just constantly disconnecting from the chat. Come on, YouTube, what is going on? I can't even see anything. What is happening? Hold on. Maybe this will help. Man. Talk about Problems. Unable to connect to chat. Okay. No idea why is it doing this? Of course. Always got to happen when I'm on my own. Anyways, so I can't tell if. Okay, I can't tell if anybody can hear me. I can't connect to the chat, and I'm all by my lonesome. So this is gonna be a rough go. So, yeah, Uncharted 2 was really good. I quite enjoyed it. I can't wait to play Uncharted 3. So I'll put up my review when I finish that stuff. Other than that, I've kind of started the golf club too. Look for a video on that tomorrow. What else? And that's really much it. Like I've been kind of doing some other things, messing around with some artwork tools to kind of make better thumbnails. I've also been kind of going through and picking some parts for a PC I want to build because I want to get a better PC. So I've been doing that stuff and kind of like researching some of those things. But anyways, what shall we talk about first? I know we'll talk about Titanfall 2, Titanfall 2, and 6K. So, yeah. So what was it? The other day I did a video about this. Came out that Respawn from one of the devs, the name goes by DK005 on NeoGAF, said that when he was playing war games, a couple, sometimes he would notice that the game was running in 6K resolution, basically. He didn't really say what he was doing. He could have been looking at a menu, but he did say it was pretty impressive. And they do use the downsampling stuff so to make the game look better in 4K. Like, the game's not going to run in 6K. I mean, from what I understand, you can get any game to run at any resolution. The problem is getting the game to run at a acceptable frame rate. So, because there's this been whole resolution talk about like whether or not if the Xbox One X has been compromised because a lot of the games are just doing checkerboard rendering and things like that, and there's outside of the first party games there's not too many native first party games or native games in general. So a lot of people are kind of like, oh, the system's been compromised in some sort of manner, which isn't necessarily true. It's just that I've always said whatever technique they used to get the game running on the Pro is the same technique they'll use to get it to run on the Xbox One X. Although I did kind of feel funny that he did offer up that information voluntarily. Like nobody kind of forced him to come out and say those things. He was just like, oh, by the way, one day I noticed this stuff. So I thought that was interesting. I don't expect it to run at 6K. It's obviously going to run at 4K, and it obviously has a variable frame rate because he even mentions in his post that sometimes it dips below 4K and things like that. So yeah. Anyways, so Titanfall 2. I mean, I would love to see the game. The question I have is, here's the thing I always struggle with when I play a game, right? This is always my struggle, is going back to play anything, especially stuff I've beaten. So while Titanfall 2 was going to be running at 4K 60 on the Xbox One X, I kind of don't really care because I'm not going to go back and play the game at all. Like, I finished the campaign, which was an excellent campaign. I don't play the multiplayer because nobody plays the multiplayer. And it's like, all right, well, here we have this game running at 4K 60, but I kind of like, how many people are actually going to go back and replay that game? I'm not really sure. And while it's an impressive feat, I just don't know if I'm going to go back and and play it again. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. Someone says, "Why are you playing Uncharted games on easy?" Well, because it defaulted to easy, and that's the difficult. Look, here's the thing. I'm not looking for a challenge because I don't know, the chat's kind of popping in and up here on the thing. I'm not looking for a challenge with PlayStation games. So what I want from PlayStation games is just to play through the story. I don't care about trophies on the PlayStation. If I cared about trophies on the PlayStation, I would beat Uncharted on Crushing and Brutal, and I would get all the trophies. But I don't care about any of that stuff. So I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I'm just going to enjoy the games for what they are. And when I started up the Uncharted game, it was set to easy. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to play it on easy. I don't care. I'm not. Look, I game for my enjoyment, my entertainment. I don't game for anybody else's. So if you have a problem with the fact that I played Uncharted 1 on easy because I wanted to just play through the game, then there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. You know what I'm saying? And just for measure, when I started up Uncharted 3, it defaulted to normal, and that's the difficulty I'm playing on. So, yeah. That's why the trophy says easy, because that's what it defaulted to. Sue me. I just, like I said, I don't care about trophies on the PlayStation. So I'm just going to try to enjoy the games and play whatever I want. That's basically my prerogative. Whatever it defaults to is the difficulty I'm going to play it on. So what was I talking about before I got distracted? Because this chat thing gets ridiculous sometimes. Oh yeah, the Titanfall 2 stuff. Look, the Xbox One X, God, I don't like that name, it's obviously going to be the most powerful console ever made. Unfortunately, it also, devs outside of Microsoft's first party also kind of got to also make the games for other systems. So you're not going to see the absolute best of those developers taking advantage of those systems. Period. I made a video about that. Remember when Destiny 2, when the whole thing was 30 frames, I said that was going to be one of my biggest issues with the Xbox One X, was that I didn't think a lot of developers would make the game as best they could, or at least make it dev to the power of the X, and it looks like that's going to happen. There will be some games that do, and mostly the smaller games, but most of the huge AAA games, they're all just going to be the same. And that was kind of my worry about the whole thing. Now, I'm still going to be getting Scorpio when it comes out because, well, I am an Xbox fan. All my, I own like 700, 800 games on the Xbox. All my friends are on the Xbox. So that's where I'm going to play it. I have a PlayStation now, so I can play those PlayStation exclusives that everybody told me about, and I am enjoying it. Last of Us was an amazing experience, and I am enjoying Uncharted 2. So that is that. What else we got here? Thanks for everybody for tweeting me that I'm still live, because I can't tell, because every time I like refresh the stream, I can see people's comments, and then it just says it can't connect. So yeah. What else we got here? Oh, Xbox Game Pass was updated recently. I think it's either going to be today or pretty soon. Xbox Game Pass, if you didn't know, is a service where you can pay $10 a month and you get 100 games. Now, I didn't do a video going through the 100 games because I didn't really know how. I didn't really have the capture software at the time. Now I can, because I figured out a way. But I figured I'd talk about these 5 games that they added to the Game Pass. And if this makes the, the idea of paying $10 for 105 games or stuff a little bit more easier to swallow. So they added Dead Island Definitive Edition. I played that game to completion. The very first section of that area on the beach is pretty good, but I kind of felt like the rest of the game was kind of terrible. So I don't know how to feel about that one. Resident Evil 6, I thought was a cool game. Definitely worth checking out, although definitely nowhere on the scale of like a Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 7 or 2. They also had an F1 2015, and it's like F1 2015, bro. It's like it's 2017. Like we're a couple. I mean, I know it's a free game for a pass, but come on, man. Like I don't know. That'd be like adding Madden like 15 or something. I mean, who cares at that point, right? What else they added? They added The Flame and the Flood, which is a cool survival game. That game is definitely worth checking out, especially if you enjoy those type of games. I would definitely recommend downloading that game because it's pretty cool. I actually enjoyed what I played of that game when I did play it. They also added Guacamelee, which I guess has been on like every system. It also was Games with Gold. So check that game out. It's a pretty cool brawler. I actually quite enjoyed it when I played it through. For Games with Gold, I actually really enjoyed that game. So yeah, that's a really cool game. Probably worth picking up if you don't already have it for free. What else we got? Bard's Gold. I have that game. I haven't played it. Not really sure what to say about that. And Monaco, What's Yours Is Mine, which is, I think, a 360 game. I know it's a stealth game, but I'm not sure if it's any good. So they added 5 games, and it looks like 4 of them are Xbox One games. And that's kind of what I want to see more, is I like to see them more go towards the Xbox One games rather than rely on 360 back compat games. But that is just me. So that's the new 5 games added to the list. Check out Game Pass. It's always available. It's only $10. There also is a summer sale. I know PlayStation has a summer sale right now. Xbox just put out a trailer for their summer sale, which comes out June 30th. And I think it runs to like July 11th. Don't really know what games are going to be in the deal. There was a collection of games shown in the trailer. I'd probably make a video about that, going through all the games to see which ones are worth it at what price. So save your money, because there's a lot of games on the list to look forward to. What else we got going on here? Oh yeah, the NES Mini. The SNES Mini. I did a video about this as well. They look, it's no surprise Nintendo was going to do this, right? The SNES Mini is look, Nintendo's going to do what Nintendo's going to do, right? They know that people want the SNES Mini. Probably even more so than the regular SNES. So for $80, you get 21 games. There looks like there's a couple classics on there, and they have the Star Fox 2 game, which was never released before. So it seems like a pretty good value. The problem here is that shit is going to sell out immediately. Like, you will not be able to pick one of those up at any point in time, essentially. Like, when the pre-orders go up for that on Amazon or wherever they go up for, that stuff will be sold out, and scalpers will be selling that stuff for the holidays for really, really huge amount of prices. And that's just kind of the world we live in. I mean, people know that's going to happen. And it's kind of sad, but I understand why. Because they're going to buy those things for $80 a pop, and then they're going to resell them for basically $300 to $400. So I just hope Nintendo really does what they say they're going to do, and they're going to actually have a lot of stock for this system. Because I actually see this being in more demand than the NES was, because a lot of people consider the SNES the best Nintendo console because it has the best games for it. So hopefully Nintendo does what they say they're going to do and make a shit ton of units to fill a demand. Man, like, I don't know, man. I don't know about you guys, but I look at Nintendo and I'm like, the turnaround they made from where they were a couple years ago is astounding. The Wii U was just like an abject failure in every regard. and then they come out with the Switch, a system that I looked at and I'm like, well, is it a handheld? Is it a is it a console? Like what is this thing? It's some sort of hybrid, but like I have no interest in a handheld video game system. I have no interest in Nintendo games. So I was like, nobody's really going to care about this, right? Nobody's going to care about the Switch. And lo and behold, 3 months into this stuff, and people care. It's just sold 1 million in Japan, I saw them announce. It's constantly sold out everywhere. I was just like, man, how do they do this? Like, they hit lightning in a bottle, not once with the Wii, but again with the Switch. It's kind of curious how that happened. To see. And I know people love Nintendo and they love the IP. And maybe the name Wii U kind of screwed them over. Maybe people didn't know it was a new console. People just thought it was an attachment to the Wii. But man, like, I'm impressed with what Nintendo's doing. I obviously, like, I always admit when I'm wrong. I thought the system wouldn't sell well. I always said they were irrelevant to me. So to see Nintendo kind of buck that trend, I'm like, congratulations, Nintendo. I mean, you did a great job. I'm eating my words, eating crow as they speak. And now I'm honestly starting to think, for a long time, I thought with the release of Scorpio, Xbox One X this holiday, I thought Microsoft had at least the launch month of whenever Scorpio launched in. And obviously it's November, right? I thought they had that month on lock. Because if you look back at last year, the PlayStation 4 barely outsold the Xbox One. And the only reason it did outsell the Xbox One is because it had the extra sales from the Pro. So I was like, all right, you're going to have all the hardcore Xbox fans rebuy the Xbox One X. You're going to have the PS4. You're going to have the regular Xbox One S be like $200 to $250. It's going to sell gangbusters. The extra sales from the X will push it over PlayStation. I still think that'll happen. I still kind of think at least Xbox will beat PlayStation for November. I still think that'll happen. But now I'm starting to think it doesn't really matter because Nintendo's going to eat both the PlayStation and Xbox's lunch this holiday. If of course the big question is they have stock available, right? And if Nintendo's got stock available, oh boy, that Mario game, Mario Odyssey, comes out in, what is that, like October 27th? If they can have stock available and ready for people for Black Friday and things like that, man, they could probably do extremely well. And no, I still have zero interest on a Nintendo. I know I can see the bad hombre because I'm refreshing the chat to see what people say, but I constantly get disconnected. But I don't care about Nintendo. I still don't care about Nintendo. I'll never care about Nintendo. Don't call me a Nintendo fanboy. I'm not even... I know some people think I'm neutral now. Because I have a PlayStation or what have you, because I've actually seen people say that in chat. I wouldn't call myself a PlayStation fanboy. I'm enjoying some of their games they currently have. I am an Xbox fan. Yeah, you can call me a fanboy. I have over 1 million gamer score. I own 700 games on the system. So I'm not a Nintendo fanboy. I will fight you to the death if people say that. I don't care about Nintendo, but I got to give props. You know, I'm not going to sit there and talk down on PlayStation and talk down on Nintendo. That's not me, and that's not what my channel is, so I'm not going to do it. I just particularly don't have any interest in what Nintendo's doing, but I appreciate the fact that they are doing so well, and I was wrong. I admit it. I'm eating crow. I wouldn't be surprised if the Nintendo Switch dominates the holidays. And I'll have to go back on my prediction of Xbox One winning the holidays, and I'll have to eat crow and say Nintendo might if they have that stuff in hand. But yeah, SNES Mini, like I said, never owned one. My gaming shame, never played a SNES game. I might consider picking one up when it goes on sale, if I can possibly pre-order one. So we will see how that turns out. What else? What else we got on the docket? Man, I wish Jez was here because at least we could go back and forth on some of this stuff. Because I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably interested in seeing what his opinions are, and we can have a a discussion about it, but hey, who needs jazz anyways, right? It's all about Rand. What else we got here? Oh yeah, Detroit Become Human kind of makes fun of Xbox users. I thought this was pretty funny. And let's talk about this for a couple minutes here, right? So, if you're living underneath the rock, Detroit Become Human is a PlayStation game that they've shown off this year at E3 and also last year at E3. And it's the third game from Quantic Dream. They did Heavy Rain and they did Beyond Two Souls. Well, they made a splash on Twitter when the Twitter account was like, when you wake up and Detroit Become Human is still a PlayStation game, but you're still an Xbox owner. So I thought, my first thought when I saw that stuff was, holy cow. We are console war. Now, you never really see game devs, especially on Twitter or PlayStation or Sony or any of those people, reference each other directly, and they added Xbox. But I was kind of like thinking to myself, well, what's the point of this tweet? Are they trying to get users to follow them on Twitter by trying to be savage? Because you know that's how it is on Twitter these days. You got to be savage, right? Savage, like how Wendy's got really popular because they would go after certain people and stuff. I just didn't know what the case was. And the problem is the game is, who knows when the game is coming out? Who knows? It didn't have a release date at E3. The game is at least probably a year away, if not more. Why are you doing this right now? If it would make more sense if the game was literally about to come out. Because then, you know, as they say, you know, any sort of press is good press, whether it's bad. People would have been talking about Detroit Become Human. People would have cared. It would have had been this whole stink, but the game's nowhere close to coming out. So what's the deal? And we don't even know if the game's freaking good, on the other hand. No, they say this thing like, oh, you know, you're an Xbox owner, and you have this dilemma, Detroit Become Humans on PlayStation. What are you going to do? But for all we know, the game could be a pile of trash. And if it's a pile of trash, who wants it then? So it's like you have all these different things, and it's like, man, hopefully somebody at Quantic Dream or somebody at PlayStation took him to the side and was like, listen, you don't do that. We're above that here at PlayStation. And I know sometimes the execs at both companies will take subliminal, can I talk, shots at each other, but they never really, when they do, it's never really like at the competition. Yeah, Xbox will put all the checklists and stuff like, oh, 4K UHD Blu-ray player and all that stuff, but it's never added PlayStation. It's always supposed to be implied. The same way the famous Yoshida Adam Boys, this is how you share games on PlayStation. Yeah, it's a direct shot at Xbox, but it's subtle enough, and you don't need to say Xbox in it to get across your point. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Is you don't, like, Detroit Become Human didn't even have to put Xbox in their tweet at all. You know, you could just been like, they could have done that whole thing and just said, you know, I don't know. I didn't really give it that much thought, but there's a way you could do it where you can get your point across without saying Xbox. It's just kind of Bush League. I expect more from these companies sometimes. I expect more. But, man, number one, the game's too far out. Don't be talking about that stuff now. Number two, the game could be a pile of garbage, and nobody's going to care if it is. And they would have a point if the game was really good. But stop talking about Detroit Become Human on Twitter and start making the game. Get the game to come out 2018, 2019. So, yeah, Detroit Become Human, ripping Xbox owners. You know, my first thought, though, when I saw that was it's kind of funny, actually. Kind of funny. So, before we get into the IGN enforced Xbox downloads, which I thought was freaking ridiculous, I did see this Xbox Achievements article taking it was a picture from a listing in Europe that Crash Bandicoot and the Crash trilogy, which is coming out in what, 2 days on PlayStation, to the surprise of nobody, looks like it's coming out on Xbox this year, and it looks like it has the release date of December. So you're probably looking at close to 6-month timed exclusivity. The question is, do I care about Crash Bandicoot? I didn't really care about Crash Bandicoot when it was on the PlayStation, so I don't really care about Crash Bandicoot now. I never, honestly, if I'm being honest with you guys, I never saw the appeal of Crash Bandicoot whatsoever. Not a single time did I see the appeal of that game. I played the first one. I've even played some of the ones that were on the 360, but man, I just, like, I see that, and I understand why people, nostalgia is a hell of a drug. I understand why people are looking forward to playing the game. Don't get me wrong, but like me personally, and I know I always got to say this, me personally, because people always get upset when I give my own personal opinions on stuff. Like on TXR on Monday, when I was like, hey, the Xbox, original Xbox back compat thing, like, who cares? I gave it a 1 out of 10 based on the usefulness of how I'm going to use it. And people they were upset that I said it's worthless. It's like, listen, these are my opinions. Like, I understand they may not go for any of you guys in chat, and I'm sure there's probably plenty of you in chat are like, man, Crash Bandicoot was my childhood, Rand. Don't crash on my childhood. I love that. I can't wait for it to come back and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's cool. I'm glad for you. I'm glad you can play Crash Bandicoot, but that's not for me, dude. That's not for me. I hope you have a good time with it, but I won't care about this game when it comes to Xbox, whenever it comes to Xbox. Will I play it? Probably not. Even if I got it for free, I probably wouldn't play it. There's other games I want to play. There's other PlayStation exclusives I want to play. So yeah, not really. I don't really care about Crash Bandicoot. I'm sure other people will. Maybe you'll see some Xbox fans suddenly be like, "Oh, Crash Bandicoot's great," because now it's coming to Xbox when before it wasn't. I figured I'd talk about that for a couple seconds. Now, let's talk about PUBG. Now, I did this video on Sunday because what I think PUBG is doing is quite impressive, to be honest with you. The fact that this game kind of came out of nowhere, released in March in early access on Steam or PC or wherever, and in 3 months they've sold 4 million copies. The game goes for $30. It was one of the bigger announcements at Xbox's E3 this year. In fact, I think it was like, what was it, like the 3rd or 4th game they showed? Because they started off with Forza, then they went to Metro, then they went to Assassin's Creed. So it was like the 4th game. It's a big deal. This game is like the talk of the gaming industry. Like everywhere I go, like everybody's playing this game. So I was kind of thinking, could this game help Xbox? Is it really exclusive? And how big can PUBG get? Because a lot of developers, a lot of publishers are always trying to look for the next Minecraft. And when I say the next Minecraft, I'm not talking like the next 100 million unit seller, right? They're looking for a game that kind of just came from nowhere and just kind of blows up. And that's exactly what PUBG did. A game that came out of nowhere and has just dominated the genre that it is in, that battle royale genre. Which is impressive. It's a genre that's gotten a lot of support recently, but PUBG has just completely just dominated that whole thing. You're all looking at a Minecraft type-like experience, and it's done all of that just on PC, and now it's finally coming to Xbox sometime later this year. I would assume before the Xbox One X comes out. So if I had to guess, I'd say maybe early October, late September sometime. It would be great if they could get it out now. If they could get that game out now, that would be huge. But obviously they probably are working on it. But the thing is it's done 4 million on PC. What can it do on Xbox? This is kind of an experience on Xbox that would be unique. Yeah, the culling's there, but it's melee based and it's not very good. And I'm trying to even think of another survival battle arena game. What do we got? What am I thinking of? Ark Survival Evolved, I wouldn't really call Battle Arena. I mean, it is more of a PvE game. I guess there are PvP-like stuff in it, but I wouldn't necessarily call it that. So, and considering how big it is, I think this game could take off on consoles and make it even bigger, sell even more millions of units. But of course, the game has to work, as we've seen recently with some of these games, Friday the 13th, The Culling, for example, these indie developers that have a multiplayer game, they seem to have problems with the multiplayer aspect, whether they don't have enough servers or whether something's wrong in the matchmaking aspect of it. But that game can't come out for $30 in game preview and not work. Like, so hopefully they take the time to make sure they have enough servers, that the matchmaking and stuff is up to par and ready to go. So when that day comes and everybody can buy PUBG, because I expect like literally almost everybody on Xbox, well, not literally everybody, but a huge portion of people on Xbox to buy PUBG when it comes out. And they're going to be really disappointed if they buy PUBG and it doesn't work. And I understand, like, people will be like, well, it's game preview, so you cut them some slack, but it's like, I don't know about that. I mean, like, okay, for a trial, sure, maybe, but like, if you pay your money for the thing, the thing's supposed to work. So, I don't know. So hopefully Xbox takes extra care with this game. Hopefully they give them enough support. Hopefully they have enough servers ready to go live when this game launches. And I could see this game just dominating consoles and PC, and then probably eventually when this comes to PS4, because Microsoft used that weird language on stage, the Xbox console launch exclusive, and people are wondering, what does that mean? Well, to me, when I saw that wording on stage at E3, all that means to me is timed exclusive. Because if it was a true exclusive, it would say exactly what it says for like Crackdown and Sea of Thieves and Super Lucky's Tale. Because if you go back and watch, all those games all said Xbox console exclusive or Xbox and Windows 10 exclusive. But all the other stuff said console launch exclusive. So to me, that just basically means time. So I think PUBG will come out on PlayStation probably sometime next year. They also don't have early access, so maybe Xbox benefits by the fact that they do have an early access program to help get this game early. But I think that's a big boon for the console. I think it could potentially sell Xbox Ones, maybe even Xbox One X's. I know a couple real-life friends of mine who literally bought a new PC to play that game. So don't be surprised if it sells extremely well. PUBG. So let's talk about this IGN and stuff. A lot of people DM me. A lot of people tweet me, saying like, hey, would you make a video about this and stuff like that. And I knew we would talk about on the podcast, and I figured like I have other like videos I wanted to make, so like we're gonna talk about it now, right now. Look, I don't go to IGN for my news. I don't go to GameSpot for my news. I don't go to any of these huge websites for any of my news, because you don't have to, because they just regurgitate news they get sent from the press. I don't like the big websites. I honestly don't. Someone asked me today, I think it was Mr. Boomstick, if I listened to Podcast Unlocked. I've listened to Podcast Unlocked maybe 3 times, and it's normally when they have guests on that they normally don't. When they had Ryan McCaffrey interviewed Phil Spencer, Peter Moore, and Seamus Blackley on, I listen to that because that is interesting. You get those 3 people in a room, I will watch it because the stories they could tell, great. When Aaron Greenberg was on, I watched it. When Phil Spencer was on, I watched it. Because I want to know what those guys are going to say. Here's the thing. I don't care what Ryan McCaffrey has to say. I don't care what Marty Silva has to say. I don't care what Dustin Legary has to say. And I'm not even sure of the chick's name, to be honest with you, and that's no disrespect to her. Alana Pierce or something. They are what I would call, even though they're in the gaming industry, even though they have contacts with everybody at Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, even though they've been around video games their entire life, even though they go to all these events and get all this stuff, I always view those type of people, because when you listen to them, as almost like casuals. They honestly come across to me as uninformed individuals. Now, I'm not saying that you should listen to me because I'm informed. There's this, I just, and it's not even my job. I tend to consume more information about video games and Xbox than they do. And honestly, when it comes to Xbox, I'll put my knowledge up with Xbox with any of those guys, and I know I'll know more than Marty Silva, Dustin Legary, or Lana Pierce, or whatever. Ryan McCaffrey, we've had him on TXR, a nice dude, but Podcast Unlocked is hard to listen to. It's hard to listen to because the people on the show are completely uninformed about everything, and they do their listeners a disservice. Now, I'm not going to get out there and say it sucks or whatever, because everything's subjective in life. My favorite podcast to listen to, aside my own, of course, which I never really re-listen to mine, but I love the Giant Bomb podcast. I love Jeff Gertzman and Brad Shoemaker and all those guys at Giant Bomb. I've been listening to them for years. I find them to be knowledgeable about video games and entertaining. So that's what when I watch YouTube videos and when I listen to other people talk, I'm looking for a couple different things, because my time is limited, as yours is too. I want to know, am I going to learn anything from this, or am I going to be entertained from it? And if you can combine the two, then I'll listen. And Giant Bomb combines the two. Super knowledgeable individuals about the gaming industry, and they're highly enjoyable, and I get so much entertainment from listening to them. Now, that's for me. That may not be for you. When I happened to listen to Podcast Unlock in the past, I learned nothing new, and I'm not entertained. So why would I watch it? And that is all I'm going to say about Podcast Unlocked, about my feelings toward it. Now, they put out a tweet, they put out an article basically saying, you are forced, like it was a bad thing, forced, capital letters, to download Xbox, the 4K patches if you have an Xbox One X. Forced. Now look, I see this as a good thing. If you want the best experience out there, if you honestly do, and you're getting an Xbox One X, you obviously want the best picture image quality that you can get. And that's whether it's got 4K textures or whatever. So of course, the game is going to have to, or the system is going to have to download those patches for those games. And the Xbox has an automated update system. So of course, you knew it was going to download those patches to apply them, because what did you buy an Xbox One X for? And don't tell me like, well, that only applies if you have a 4K TV, because it doesn't. Because Microsoft has gone the extra step in making sure that super sampling is available on 1080p TVs throughout. So when Ryan McCaffrey and all those dudes on Podcast Unlock say, I don't own a 4K TV, I have a 1080p TV, well, good. You're going to benefit from that, and you're going to benefit from those downloads. When Halo 5 or whatever game comes out, let's just pick, when Witcher 3 comes out and it has that patch, and that patch is super large, right? And you download that patch, even if you don't have a 4K TV, that game is going to look better because it's going to super sample that down to from 4K or whatever the download is to 1080p. Your game is going to look better, and it's only going to look better because you have an Xbox One X and because you downloaded that stuff. So I just thought the wording on that stuff was just ridiculous. Forced. Like you're not forced to do anything. Like, come on, man. And then of course the dude's wearing a PlayStation shirt when he's doing it. It's just ridiculous sometimes. Just utterly ridiculous. Yeah, and you know what? To be honest with you, if I can be real here for a second, I am worried about the data cap stuff for some of these games. I do own a lot of games, like I've said. That's not to brag, but I do own a lot of games. And a lot of those games I do own are going to get 4K patches. And I have Comcast, which means I'm on a, I have like a 1 terabyte download cap. So a lot of those games I'm going to be playing, a lot of those games I own that are going to get patches, yeah, this is going to eat up into my data cap. So I am a little bit concerned about that. But at the same time, if I don't want those patches, and I don't want that stuff to download to my Xbox, I'll just uninstall the game. And whenever I'm ready to play that game again, I'll re-download it. You know? And yeah, I guess you could say Forza 7, they said you need like 100 gigs of space available. That is a lot. 100 gigabytes for Forza 7 before any of the DLC and any of the other stuff. That is a lot. And even with the 1 terabyte internal hard drive on the Xbox One, hello, like that you could get like 900 gigs free of that. That's a ninth of your hard drive gone, dude. How many, like, what are the sizes of some of these games going to be this year? What are the sizes of some of these games going to be when they actually dev with all this stuff in mind? Like, you're going to need some of those huge hard drives, man. And I have 5 terabytes of external storage, and I don't have every game installed. I have like 240 games installed right now and like 500 ready to install, right? I'm going to need to get more storage probably for these games and these 4K textures so the game looks beautiful on my TV, on my Xbox One X, and that's the whole point of the system. And luckily for us, Microsoft's like, hey, go out and get external storage if you want. You know, that new Seagate thing with 8 terabytes where the hub, you can plug it right in. I might have to get one of those motherfuckers because I'm going to need storage. And their games are only going to get bigger, but hey, that's what I wanted. That's why you're buying an Xbox One X. You want to see these games in the best way possible, being played the best way possible on your big TV. You know, like, that's the whole point of the thing. So to say I just found all that stuff just so disingenuous. Podcast Unlocked, to me, like I said, it's not entertaining, and I never learn a thing, which is why I don't listen to the show. You gotta be knowledgeable. I gotta learn something, or you gotta be entertaining. One of the two, preferably the two together. And Podcast Unlocked doesn't fit that bill whatsoever. Now, on the flip side, when Colin and Greg were at IGN, even though I didn't really think Greg was that knowledgeable, they were entertaining. Colin was the knowledgeable one, so I appreciated listening to that. Even though I was an Xbox fan, I appreciated their back and forth. They entertained me just like Giant Bomb entertains me. So yeah, I mean that's just how I look at what videos on YouTube. Like, I got to learn something or I got to be entertained. And Podcast Unlocked does neither. I know, damning info for me. Podcast Unlocked, don't even bother to watch it. Even though Ryan McCaffrey is a pretty cool dude. I met him a couple times and we had him on the show. I actually would love to have him again to talk about some stuff, but yeah. There's that stuff. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the video I did yesterday. I'm not sure a lot of you people saw this. So I actually had a lengthy conversation about this last night in party chat with my buddy, Mr. Black Magic, who actually is heading out to Redmond to go work at Xbox tomorrow. He starts sometime in July. So if you're listening, Magic, I hope you do extremely well, and I hope you have a long career at Xbox. Because when I go out there to Redmond, you have to show me around. So we talked about this information from DFC Intelligence, and this is a group that does analytical data and predictions and shit like that, right? You can check out my last video if you want to get a little more in-depth detail on some of the stuff. Like, they sell these reports to investors for like thousands of dollars. This Xbox One X one where this information came for is $1,000. You can go to their website, type it into Google, DFC Intelligence. It'll bring you to their website. You can go there, you can click on it. It's $1,000 to get the Xbox One. I'm not really, and I think it's like $3,000 for another one and $4,000 for another one. It's ridiculous, right? So they put out a note. They put out a note basically saying that they expect the Xbox One to Xbox One X to sell 17 million units by 2021. Okay, fair enough prediction. I think it's a little bit on the high end, but whatever. It's their prediction. Their prediction is their prediction. But they also said that they expected the family of Xbox, the Xbox One family, to be at 63 million by 2021. So I was like going through my head. I was trying to do the math. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This is like wrong. And I'll tell you why. Because even talking about this with Magic and a couple other people in party, like we couldn't wrap our heads around this whatsoever. Because if you read the article from the GameIndustry.biz, they were talking down about the Xbox One X, about how it's going to have a hard time fitting into like finding an audience. Like an audience is super limited because 4K TV adoption isn't very high. That PlayStation and Switch offer a better alternative. A whole bunch of stuff. It was a very negatively slanted article. But then they say Xbox One X 17 million, which is in 4 years that would roughly almost be what, 4 million systems a year, which I think is pretty good. But if you take the 63 million number, right, and you subtract the 30 million that the Xbox One X or Xbox family's at now, or will be at by the time the X launches, you're left with 30 million consoles. So they project that in the next 4 years, the Xbox family will sell 33 million consoles. Which, okay, so they sold 30 million the first 4, and they're going to sell 33 million the next 4. Okay, I'll roll with you on that. But then if you take the 33 million and subtract the 17 that they say the Xbox One X, this is their prediction. Now keep in mind, they're charging $1,000 for this shit. You end up with 16, right? So they're saying that the Xbox One X is going to sell 17 million from when it launches to 2021, and that Xbox One S is going to sell 16 million from that same point in time. And I'm like, there's no way on God's green earth that the Xbox One S accounts for that much. There's no way it outsells the S, period. Not a chance. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, this has got to be wrong. This information has to be wrong. Where is it wrong? Is it like, because even if you go with, okay, so it's higher than 30 now, right? And say it was at 33 million right now. That means, okay, so 33 million, so that means 30 million, which means Xbox One X is 17 million, the Xbox One S is 13, so that's even a bigger percentage towards the Xbox One X. I'm like, that can't be right. But then if you go down more, if you go to like 25 million, right? So if they're only at 25 million, you're looking at what, 35 million? So they're basically saying, oh, they sold 25 million the first 4 and they're going to sell 35 million the next 4. And yeah, the percentage would fall in line between the S and the X, but like that still doesn't make any sense. How does it make that jump? So I'm running through the numbers. I'm like, this whole thing is just wrong, period. But it's like, where is wrong at? Is their prediction of Xbox One S is 17 million too high? I think it's too high. I think it's probably going to do, if I had to guess, 12. And is their Xbox One X prediction wrong? I mean, how are people paying $1,000 for this stuff, dude? And you know, this information gets out there and people read it and they think it's true, or you're like, oh, that's a good prediction. But then you break down the numbers and it just doesn't make any sense, man, at all. Like, I expect the S, or I expect the X to sell to a higher percentage of the user base than the PS4 Pro did to PlayStation. That's what I expect. And PlayStation's come out and said it's about 20%, and it's more than they thought. So I expect the Xbox One X to sell to 25%, maybe 30% at the highest. Because at the end of the day, it's still a $500 console. And so I'm like thinking, like, well, wait a minute. This can't be right, man. Their prediction is basically that the Xbox One X is going to sell 55% of the total sales of the whole family, that's way too high, man. That's way too high. So I had to make a video about that. I had to call it out. The numbers just don't make any sense. I mean, 63 million by the end of 2021 would be a fantastic turnaround for the system. Yes, it's down from the 360, you know, by a few, like 20 million or so. But then again, look what they are, 63 million after the disaster of 2013. I mean, that would be a good recovery. I'm just not sure what it would really be. Are they really going to sell more consoles the next 4 years than they did the first 4 years? I mean, history normally tells you that's not the case in the video game industry. Even as console prices come down, you don't normally sell more your last 4 years. But then again, this gen's weird, dude. Most console generations are 5 years long. Hell, we're coming into year 4, basically 4 years. That this November, and is this gen gonna play out as long as the last gen? Are we gonna get 8 years? I don't know. So that whole stuff hit too, and it's just like, all right, what is really going on here? I'm these people, dude. I don't know. These analysts, like anything Michael Pachter says, like as another analyst, like you could. Like when he says something, I always just say the opposite's going to happen. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. He basically said the Xbox One X should launch for 400. Well, it came out at 500. I mean, just go look at all the different things he's said, and like whatever he says, the opposite will happen. And these people are charging their information. Like I could have told you for free that the Xbox One X isn't going to outsell the Xbox One S. I would have given you that information for free. And you know what? I would have been right. I'd be 100% right, because the only way it's possible the Xbox One X outsells the S in the next 4 years is if the X, or is if the, this is why I hate the names. I hate this stuff because I get them confused. And is if the S gets discontinued. Like if they stop selling that thing. But they're not going to, because Phil and all them have said that it's going to be the one that sells the most. That's going to be the one that's on sale for $250. That's going to be the one the casuals go and buy. That's the one that's going to be on sale on Black Friday for $200. Then eventually be $200 for years going. The Xbox One X is still $500. Yeah, it'll be maybe $450 next year and then $400 the year after, but that's still a shit ton of money, especially when you have a cheaper unit out there. So, man, I don't know. Some of these people and some of the stuff they say just don't make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, so I'm sorry that Jez didn't show up. It's 4:08. That kind of sucks. He hasn't messaged me whatsoever, so I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if he forgot what time we're supposed to do it at or whatever. So I apologize to anybody out there that is a Jez fan that wanted to hear what he had to say. My apologies. Hopefully next week he'll be back and at the right time. I mean, he knows the right time, but I know Jez has some people, people want to listen to Jez and see what to say, and I do like the back and forth. As much as I do enjoy doing these solo podcasts, because it kind of gives you a rush of being the only one. It kind of sucked for this one because I couldn't see the chat because it wouldn't connect, and every time I'd refresh it, it just wouldn't connect. So yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I pretty much have run out of all the topics I want to talk about. I would ask if you guys have any questions, but I can't see any comments in the chat, so I don't know if anybody's saying anything. So we're probably going to end the show here. I'm sorry that, I had the mic issues at the beginning. I'm sorry that Jez didn't show up, and I'm sorry that I couldn't interact with chat as I kind of always do when I do these podcasts because, well, I can't see the chat. So my apologies to everybody who's listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I really did. As always, you can hit that like button, share out the stream and the video with everybody. That'd be great. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't already. I am working on trying to get a better PC so I can, don't have these problems essentially. But I appreciate everybody's support. I hope you all have a great rest of the day. And I will see everybody later. Have a good one, guys.